Hey guys, welcome to the Mr. R Show. I'm Ashton,
Andy.
and we are here going down every swing state for the 2020 election. We want to call this our little swing state series, and we are starting off alphabetically, so don't get hurt, people. It's like we'll do all the swing states, and sorry if you live in Alabama or if you live in Massachusetts, you're not interesting, at least when it comes to elections. So, uh, I picked out two different states, so you can't complain. So we're starting with Arizona. Um, Very hot weather. I hear it's very beautiful out there, and it also has some spicy politics because it's been a, let's say, burgundy color. It's been red, but it's turning slowly blue. It not blue, but more purple. So Andy, uh, we made this document because we wanted to go through and kind of get the stats, look at the history, look at the current polling, stuff like that. So let me go ahead and share that. Do you have any insights when you started looking into the state that kind of jumped off at you initially?
Yeah, Arizona is you'll see this as we get into more of the demographics in a little bit. But the first initial reaction I had when I looked at Arizona was it was very predominantly white. Crazy ratio there of how many white people there are to basically every other race. You'll see it later, but I think it's up in the 70%, if not more, of white people. So that's a huge market, of course. Not only white people, but Christian white people. So that will come into play, and that's a huge reason why Arizona, as of late, has been predominantly red.
And
So, Ashton, without
and
further,
as you can see on my screen, it has been very much Republican in the last uh, 30 years of elections, going back to 1976, which is 50 years, but the last 30 years, which is more modern era, it's been very, very, very Republican, with the exception being Bill Clinton in 96. So, uh, Andy, uh, were you shocked to learn that Arizona has a strong Republican past?
I mean, honestly, the way the lower Southwest is outside of Southern California, it doesn't really shock me much that it is more Republican. A lot of the open land type states. You see it in the upper northern Midwest of like the Dakotas and Montana. You see the open plains, and you see it down with like Utah, and you see it with Arizona, especially here. They're very Republican. A lot of government hands off type of ideologies out there, which you will see a lot with the people that support the Republican Party. So no, it does not really surprise me that there have been pretty much red every single time in the past 2 decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say it is definitely one of those things where the West was very Republican for a long time, for at least last 20 years. But it's like Democrats only recently started gaining strides in California and in the West Coast as a whole. That's modern political history that California became a big Democratic state. Like Reagan came from California. He won at both elections. It was a big Richard Nixon state. So it's like, it's one of those things where people have to realize states change over time, and what we know now won't be the case in 30 years. But when it comes to Arizona, it's been red for some time, and that is significant in reading into what will happen. So, moving on, we can look at the most recent election results. And Andy, as you can see, 2016 was a three, if you round up, 4 point margin for Trump. Uh, and in the Republican Senate race there, McCain won by 13%. So as you can see, Trump lagged behind McCain a good amount. in 2016, but he still won the state by a decent margin, would be the best way to kind of explain it. And then 2012, as you can see, Romney got a 9% margin, which is, I believe when I looked at it, slightly better than what McCain did in 2008. But the Senate race there was only won by 3%. So you can see that the last 6, 7 years, Democrats have been making little strides. First in the Senate race in 2012, and then 2016 and 2018, they won the Senate race, which we'll go to now. As you can see, McSally was polling at 1% above her Senate rival, who would go on and win, Kristen Sinema, the now senator from Arizona. So, Andy, looking at this history, the polling history, and the history of the recent election history from Arizona, does anything jump out to you?
Yes, I want to have some 2 points here from when I was doing some of this research with you on this one. Was one, if you look at 2012 versus the 2016 results, Romney in 2012 won by a bigger margin than Trump did. He had a lot more percentage of support from the Republicans, which shows you that the enthusiasm for Trump is not as much as it was for Romney. That could come back to bite him in 2020, as there's another candidate kind of like Obama that is charismatic. And you also can see that you look at those two states side by side, the 2012 and the 2016, the southwestern portion of Arizona is slowly starting to flip a little bit to become less Republican
Mm-hmm.
between 2012 and 2016. That could come into play if Biden wants to try to flip the state.
Yeah, if you overlaid that with a big map of Arizona, you'll see that's kind of like the Tucson area, a big suburb, big city. And I feel like a narrative of Trump's presidency has been him slowly losing grip of those, I'll say it again, soccer moms. Um, they are important in states like Arizona and North Carolina. And those are the states where he's bleeding, and the Republicans have been bleeding congressional seats. They've been bleeding a lot of local races. So that's why Arizona, in my opinion, has become more blue and blue since the Trump version of the Republican Party has taken more hold, and it's a little bit more focused on uneducated white men versus the more moderate suburban women. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. I wouldn't call Joe Biden necessarily energetic at all. I think you said that. I'm like, I don't call him energetic.
I should clarify more. I kind of agree. I wouldn't say he's more of an energetic candidate as Obama was clearly, but unlike Clinton, he brings more of the Democratic Party together, more or less than Clinton did. I would say more people are willing, on the fence voters, the independents are more willing to vote for Biden over Clinton when
He's
they.
less polarizing. He's very much, he has a
Correct.
lot less personal baggage, and he hasn't been in the political spotlight for 30 years and constantly um, fairly or unfairly bashed. You know, we don't want to relitigate 2016 or Hillary Clinton herself, but she was in the spotlight for a long time, and that comes with positives and negatives. So, moving on, let's look at recent polls. Um, it is a 4.4 RCP average for Biden. Does that stand out to you? Because to me, 4 points in Arizona is a little amazing to see a Democrat
Right.
leading by four
And,
points.
and not only is it he's leading by 4.4 points. That's just the average. If you look at every other poll they've been doing, that's not just all of the control all of it together. Biden's winning pretty much every poll that they're doing in Arizona. While it is a very, very small margin, and you know how the margin of error works with polls,
Yeah.
it's still impressive to see Biden winning every poll, mostly every poll in Arizona. So it's showing that, Arizona could flip to become Democratic for Biden in 2020.
Yeah, I think that shows more. not as much who is winning right now, but more of a trend of the state. Because ultimately elections are kind of decided the week of. They're rarely. It's one of those things where it's rarely built up to. And if you ask people like going into 1980, like, hey, is Reagan going to win 48 states or 49 states? I think 80 was where he won 49 states, or that might have been 84. But either way, if you asked, is Reagan going to win in a huge landslide? Most people would have been like, the actor? Nah, he'll do good. Maybe he'll win. People didn't think he was going to win in landslide the way he did. So
Times
it's
have
like,
changed. Times have changed, Ashton.
uh, people may be surprised what a 14% unemployment will do, or
Sure.
15% unemployment will do to people. Like that's it, who knows. So moving
But yeah,
on.
Biden, like we see, is winning in all the major polls in Arizona. But we're going to move on now to we're going to be talking about the different major industries in each state. Today, of course, is Arizona. Who they favor, what they bring to the table in the state, and kind of how that's going to shape up for the election. So the first major industry in Arizona, of course, is manufacturing. It's kind of split on who it favors, but we would say, or at least I would say, it kind of leans towards Joe Biden a little bit. Their major one would be, of course, they love to manufacture and export computer and electronic parts. They're the predominant item in Arizona. Big companies such as Intel, Microchip, Honeywell, all are located in Arizona. You got those big tech companies, high tech industries, and about 9% of the total state output is from manufacturing alone. So it's a tenth of the state, which is pretty big in retrospect, and that is leaning towards Biden. Ashton, does that shock you a little bit?
No, I feel like the manufacturing voting base will be split this election, and that really hurts Trump. And that hurts Trump in the sense because he won those voters over Hillary. She really struggled with those uneducated voting white males who were in manufacturing jobs, who had seen their jobs get lost, rightfully so. They were a little ticked off, and they chose to go with Trump for a various amount of valid reasons. So looking at this one, they look at someone like Joe, who was from Pennsylvania. He grew up, in a working family. So it's like it's a little bit harder to paint him as out of touch like it was Hillary Clinton. So
Yep.
it's definitely going to be where manufacturing at least is going to split 50-50, and that hurts Trump in these states where he needs those extra few thousands of votes,
Yep.
because a lot of these states will be decided very close margins.
Moving on to the next major industry in Arizona is mining. They're a big mining state. They're actually the sixth largest producer of copper, not only in the United States, but in the world. So that's a huge, huge market for them. It contributes 4.87 billion to their economy. It's one of the main sources of outside of another one we'll see later. And they also mine stuff like gypsum, helium, natural gas, and oil. So it's a big, big mining of natural resource state, which of course, who's it going to favor? Donald Trump. We know how Trump has promised to not only keep jobs but expand mining industries. He talks about coal a lot on any kind of news preferences when it comes to any kind of climate change or any kind of environmental policy. He wants to expand mining, expand stuff like that, which favors, of course, mining because that means more jobs. They have job security. They want to support Trump there. Ashton, I really don't think you have too much to say about that.
No, I mean for a lot of the big mining uh states, Trump will gain a good amount of favor in them just because that's been a part of his platform, and he does really good with mining communities. So it's definitely a good. It's better to have it than not.
Yep. This the third industry in Arizona. That's the major one. Another one that actually favors Trump, of course, is the agricultural industry. You know how the farmers love Donald Trump. Now, of course, not every farmer, I don't want to put that stereotype out there, but most of them. They are the second biggest producer of lettuce in the United States, and they're 10th in cotton production. There's some stats there on their agriculture. It's going to favor Trump more often than not. That's going to be a boost for him.
Mhm.
And then finally, the last major industry in Arizona, which you will most likely see in every single state because it's just so common, is service industry. That's like retail workers, fast food industry, any kind of service, Walmart workers even. You're going to see that in every state. It's commonplace. Of course, you have to buy things. And usually those service industry jobs tend to vote Democratic, and that is Joe Biden, of course. So he will most likely get an advantage in every state just from the service industry jobs.
Unions are definitely 100% behind Joe Biden versus the last election where it was like 60-40.
Yep, those are the major industries in Arizona. We will see how they actually do vote and his demographics when the election time comes. But let's move on to just some of the state demographics. First, we're going to start with just the common sex demographic. We're only sticking with two genders because it's a lot easier to pile the stats. That's the only reason. Um, of course, it's about 50-50, 50.3% female and about 49.7% male. So
Losing, Andy. We're already losing.
So, 50-50, just to show that. Let's move on to some of the race and the religion breakdown. We'll start with the race breakdown. Like I was saying earlier in this video, they are 77% white. That is a crazy number when you think about who they
Mhm.
represent, which is why it's so tough in Arizona to flip it to become Democratic because of those white and even male voters are a tough market. I mean, if you have the African American vote population is only 4.4%. That's a very very small minority of the state. 4.5 ish percent Native American, about 3-ish% Asian, and 10% other. So it's a huge population of whites, and that's as you can agree, Ashton, really affects the Republicans' chances. What
Um, I would say to a certain amount. I feel like people need to realize that white is the majority in like most states still, but it does allow like the margin of error for Republicans. It gives them greater leeway. I'll say that you can make more mistakes and still hold on to the state with the voting demographic a little bit more to you. I don't feel like Arizona is becoming blue necessarily just because of the demographics like other states. Like Florida and Texas have been becoming a little bit more blue because their demographics have been trending that way. They've been growing, like Georgia,
Mhm.
growing those minority populations would tend to favor the Democrats. It's not the case in Arizona. It's a more change of what voters like you and what voters dislike you. And I feel like that's the same thing with Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, states that were voting very heavily Democrat just not long ago, where they're more competitive. Democrats are now more competitive in these Sun Belt states like Arizona, like Texas, New Mexico, already in California. So it's a like I said, I think it's a shaping of how future presidential races will be more competition in Arizona, Texas, states like those versus the Midwest, which is where people are fighting over right now.
But yeah, we'll see how those the new ideology formations in Arizona will shape out in this election. The last demographic we're going to talk about today is a religion breakdown. You can see there that 67% Christian, 6% of a non-Christian faith, being that of Jewish, Muslim, Islam. Got to correct myself there, and any other kind of religion, and then 27% non-religious. So, really, the white Christian voter population is a huge market that usually favors Trump. We'll see how that works out, how it'll work out for him, and it'll be an interesting 2020 election for Arizona. Ashton, do you have any more final comments before we wrap up this election profile for Arizona?
No, I think we can go into our uh, decision desk and call in there. And when when we get that phone and we answer it, and they ask Ashton, Andy, you're calling Arizona. Who wins it? Let's go ahead and do that. Andy, give me your decision desk.
As of right
Moment.
now, my decision desk's prediction is Arizona will be for Joe Biden. Ashton, give me your decision desk moment.
Right now, I feel like Joe Biden wins it by 4%.
So there you have it, guys. Both me and Ashton voted, or not voting, but are predicting Joe Biden to win Arizona. This was
Mm-hmm.
our first swing state election profile, the Arizona election profile. We hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like this and want to see more than just the swing states or see us continue the swing states, leave a like down below and comment anything you found interesting about Arizona, about just the election process in general. Love to hear from you guys. Stay
Mm-hmm.
tuned for the upcoming state videos and for more of our map predictions, as our May one will be coming out soon. So stay tuned, guys. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. We